Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Closing Comments here on November 4th. Let's jump right into these charts and see what happened in the markets today. First up, December live cattle on the board. More downside hit in the cattle market today as the bulls just weren't able to get any follow through above those prior day's highs. If we look here on these intraday charts, we can see this market opening up above that prior day's high, making a brief attempt up there towards 233, but the bears were too tough up there, pushing this thing right back down into Monday's range. We did see a little bit of support for about the first 2 hours of the day, but this market just wasn't able to hang. Bulls finally giving up, and we saw that nice flush coming right around 9:30 Mountain Time here, sending this market all the way back down there towards Friday's low. At the moment, this market was able to slow up and finish the day above Friday's low, which was about the only good thing for the bulls today. At the moment here, this downside looks like it could be sticking around, and volatility remains to be elevated. If we do get continued offers down below Friday's low at the 227 mark, look for this thing to push down towards 225. And then below 225, it really opens the door to more downside. So look for this thing, if we do get any more offers below 225, to start slipping down here towards this 200-day moving average, which is our long-term support right around 218. We could see a nice little flush from here if the bears are able to keep on pushing through 225 tomorrow. We want to make sure that the bulls are able to support these prior week's lows and try and keep this thing range bound here in between this 225 to 234 area, as this market is just going to need a little bit more time to digest this breakdown and get some good trading points to break out from. In the meantime, looks like the downside could be continuing. Encourage everyone to remain defensive and cautious here if we do start to trade back down below Friday's low, and then below 225 it opens the door to a continuation of this downtrend. So be cautious here. We want to see the bulls step in and offer support down here at these prior week's lows, but if they're unable to do that, we could see this market continue to flush. So remain defensive here. Let this cattle market kind of sort some of this stuff out, and it's going to be a minute here before the bulls are able to take this thing back up and do new uptrend. So just encourage everyone to either sit on the sidelines or remain defensive here as we go into the rest of the week. Next up, January feeders also losing some ground here today. We did get a nice little gap open with this market pushing right up there towards 340. However, this market wasn't able to get any traction here. Settling back, like that live cattle market, we did see a little bit of support for about the first 2 hours of the day as price found some support inside that prior day's range. Then once again, 9:30 Mountain Time, just saw those bulls finally throw in the towel, and the bears really pushed this thing back down here towards Friday's low. Losing about $8 today here on this January feeder contract. As we head into tomorrow's session, we want to make sure the bulls are able to defend Friday's low. If we do get continued offers down here below 326.82, look for that downside to continue and this market starts heading down here towards this 200-day moving average at 315. This market still remains in a pretty hairy place at the moment. We want to make sure that this thing forms a nice base to trade around before we can think about any more upside. Here in the meantime, the volatility is remaining elevated, and if we get some of these prior week's lows to start breaking down, we could see more downside come from here. So remain defensive, remain cautious here. Let this cattle market try and find a good balance point here before we get committed to any new upside. So in the meantime, remain defensive and let this cattle market sort this mess out. Next up, December corn futures on the board. Today we did just give back most of yesterday's gains as this market flushed back down here below that bull pivot, finishing the day right around 431. This market just not really able to get much traction here over the last about 6-7 days. This corn market has been pretty choppy up here right around 430. Really struggling to push through these range highs right around 430. This market's just been pretty choppy at the moment. If this market is able to support this 20-day moving average and keep propped up here above 426, we could see the bulls try and make another run at it. But until we get some bids above 432, this thing should continue chopping in the area. Corn doesn't look like it's in a hurry to go anywhere at the moment. We do have some of these rising moving averages coming up into here that could offer some support, but this market seems pretty comfortable in the area, so don't be expecting any major moves here at the moment. This thing is going to continue chopping from here. Look to play the edges of these last 2 weeks as range, and if not, this thing is going to keep on chopping here in the meantime. So don't really get committed to any big positions here at the moment or directional moves. Let this thing kind of sort itself out and really confirm any new directions from here. We want to see the bulls reclaim this 432 area and start pushing back up here towards these prior week's highs. Then we can start thinking about this market trading up here towards 4.5. But in the meantime, this price point looks pretty sticky around 430. Look for the chop to continue. Crude oil prices seeing a little bit of a downside here today. Prices pushing down below those prior day's lows, briefly getting down there below the 20-day average. However, this $60 mark continues to be a battle zone. battleground here for both bulls and bears. Last week's lows were really had some downside going, but last week's lows right around the 59.64 mark. This market just had a tough time chewing through. So at the moment, crude oil price is pretty happy around $60. But we could see this chop continue inside this prior week's range. However, if we do get some offers down here below 59.64, could really kick these bears into gear and send this market back down here towards the mid 50s. But in the meantime, look for this choppy action to continue until we can get a good confirmation breakdown here below 59.64. Last but not least, our equity indexes losing some ground here today. S&P futures finally breaking down below that 68.40 mark, which has been a key level over the last couple weeks. We did see that 68.43 mark get broken down in the overnight session last night. Most of today's action was spent trading between 68 and 68.40. At the moment, this market was pretty choppy here throughout the day session, but here in the evening session tonight, we have already given back about 40 to 50 points as this market was able to get a nice breakdown below 6,800, which was today's low. This market continues to push down here into these major moving averages. This looks like a pretty structured dip here at the moment. We expect to see support step in and offer a pretty good buying opportunity from here. Big picture uptrend still remains intact. This market still has a very strong and healthy environment. We do expect to see dips get bought up and stock prices start to head back up there towards these recent highs. And we should be seeing S&P 7,000 before year end and see these equity markets continue to climb. In the meantime, let's be cautious and defensive here at the moment while this market is trying to find a good support point. But we should see this dip get bought up and should lead to pretty good buying opportunity here before the week is up. So look for this market to find some good balance points before getting involved. But this should lead to a pretty nice dip buying opportunity. So anyways, that's all we got for tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.